Well, hello and happy Wednesday. I'm Chelsie Brown alongside Collin Davies with the kcrg TV9 Sports team. And it's Wednesday. We had our second football media day with the UNI Panthers. Collin, this was kind of, your first time up there, right? You didn't go to the spring game at all, right?
No spring game
That's
for
what
me.
I thought.
This is my first
time
impressions of the UNI program.
Right, and obviously there's a lot of newness around that program too with their new head coach, first-year head coach Todd Stepsis. First impressions of him, what were they?
Yeah, he seems to be trying to go for a little bit of a cultural overhaul with the program. He wasn't talking much about wins and losses. He was more talking about how he gets his guys ready to go, and he seems like a very genuine coach. A lot of the players seemed to love him early on in my conversations with them, and it didn't seem like they were just saying it,
Yes.
like a lot of players will say, but it seemed like they actually meant it.
That's good. I have not had the chance to meet him yet, but along that newness and everything, new faces, I know there's a battle going on at quarterback right now. Kind of three guys from what we've been hearing in that mix and everything. Did you learn anything about that at media days today?
Yeah, so the quarterback battle is still ongoing, even
Okay.
though we're just a few weeks before the season. There's two guys that did play a lot last year, Matthew Sheckelman and then Aiden Dunn.
Yeah.
And those are the two guys that we would think are taking kind of the front of the quarterback battle. But there is a third name in there.
Okay.
It's Jackson Daly. He's looking to also get some time in there. And when I spoke to Stepsis, he was saying that the quarterback battle is still ongoing. He didn't really give any hints as to who is winning the quarterback battle right now.
Yeah.
But that the guys, he doesn't know. He even joked around a little bit, saying, hey, maybe we throw all three of them on the field at the same time. So you don't really know what we're going to get coming into this year. I think next week, I believe they have a scrimmage in which he said he's going to take the red shirts off the quarterbacks and he's going to get some pressure on them and see how they react. And that's when he'll get a really good idea of who his QB1 is going to be. But I would imagine, like last year, that maybe two or maybe all three of the guys get reps in certain packages.
Yeah, they all kind of have a different skill set, it sounds like, too, if whether or not they can launch the ball, run the ball sort of deal. So I feel like that's what they're trying to figure out right now is what works for them.
And that was also something he mentioned with other positions.
Okay.
Was he was saying even with like the defensive line and wide receivers, he referred to it as hockey shifts, right?
Oh.
Where the whole position group is going to come off at once. New guys come on. He's a big believer in depth, and he referenced that for defensive line and wide receivers. And with quarterbacks, I wouldn't be shocked if it's the same thing as well.
Well, it's got to be good, hopefully, for the injuries, too, to kind of limit those if you're playing it like hockey shifts, right?
Yeah, limit those risks.
As far as the offense and what it can look like with maybe those three, I mean, did he give you anything more?
Yeah. He actually, and it's great because he's very transparent. He doesn't keep things close to the vest. And he said, hey, we're going to play Midwest football. We're going to run the football.
Okay.
Is what he was saying.
Okay.
And, because he's got those three quarterbacks in a battle and he believes in establishing the run and kind of going through that. So I think we'll see a run-heavy approach. And he's got a transfer running back from Tulsa, Bill Jackson. I would imagine he's the guy that's going to take a lot of the carries this year.
Okay. So a new face, too, at running back. At quarterback, at head coach.
And Bill Jackson, unlike a lot of skill position players on this team, he's got a lot of experience at Tulsa.
Yes. I think one thing I did find fascinating, just kind of listening to Coach Stepsis talk a little bit too, is about his mentality, specifically when it comes to revenue sharing and also when it comes to kind of retaining some of his players. I think Derek Anderson spoke a little bit about it. He's one of those, senior leaders that kind of stayed back. Now they're trying to build on, kind of this culture that was established. What did you learn about, where he stands on that?
That was the biggest thing that stuck out to me is when you, especially in college nowadays, where you get these new coaches and it seems like the whole team just changes. Mm-hmm. Here, they only had 11 transfers come in this year, which is for a football team that has so many, the rosters are huge when it comes to college football.
Right.
And that's very unusual. And he mentioned that when he came in, that he made a pitch to players saying, hey, you guys have been through it here at UNI. Let's go ahead and make that difference. Let's be the team that got out of this. And all these guys stuck around. All these, we talked about that quarterback battle. Those two guys that were battling out all last year. One of them could have left and gone to another program and kind of tested the waters there where they could be a full-fledged starting quarterback. But they stuck around for a quarterback battle. And Derek Anderson, he mentioned as well that he does want to be part of the change. Even though he's a redshirt senior, he believes that he still kind of has that opportunity to go ahead and be the difference maker and create something at UNI. It's something that is I've never seen a program that gets a new head coach where they've maintained that many guys.
Right. And especially in this day and age where a lot of people are kind of trying to feel out where they could go, what their potential might be other places. It's not very common. Do you know how many or what they stand at?
It's a lot. I think they have over 100 players on their roster.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, only 11 are transfers.
That's my question. Yeah.
And so with the revenue sharing, he also mentioned the revenue sharing. I thought this was very interesting. I've heard a lot of college coaches talk about, they've all kind of embraced the revenue sharing with, hey, let's spread the money around. Maybe a quarterback needs to get this much and defensive lineman gets a little bit less, But for him, he stressed that if someone's going to get something, the whole team is going to get it.
Right.
So I think he was speaking about with when it comes to all the, budget and funding that comes into the football program, spread it around evenly. Let's invest in things like nutrition and, fitness equipment. When it comes to all that investment, he wants to keep it what college football was a little bit with.
Was.
Yes, what it was. And he wants to invest it back in the program itself rather than players. And if the players are getting anything, like you said, he wants to keep it even across the board. He mentioned if a guy comes to him and says, hey, I want more money, that he'll just tell him that, okay, you can go somewhere else, find that money. I'll turn to this guy who wants to be a Panther and play football and be part of the program. I haven't seen a college coach really speak about revenue sharing in that from that point of view either, because most of the guys have to embrace it because they have to. I think part of it is because they're not an FBS, they're not a Power 4 school. There's not as much money to go around, so maybe you can keep it a little bit more, where money is less of a factor in the program.
Well, and he's already transitioning into kind of the Missouri Valley Conference, number one, but then also from Drake to UNI. That's still worlds different,
Yeah, and Drake football does not have, I don't believe they allow scholarships.
Correct.
Scholarships. So he got at UNI, at least he gets to give scholarships.
Yep, exactly. But like you said, maybe that's the difference between, this level and then, Iowa State kind of level is that they can kind of maintain this. And then that's how you build your culture is you get the right guys like a Derek Anderson to kind of help build that up, start it. I remember Anderson too saying at the Missouri Valley Conference days that this kind of senior class decided to stick around and they kind of had a say and how this program kind of gets rebooted in a sense. So that's cool. You also wanted to mention something about his role?
Yeah, so Derek Anderson played 2 ways last year. That is
casual.
He's not going to do that again this year. He mentioned that last year it was exhausting, and that was a conversation that the coach and Anderson had was that, hey, he's going to step back into one role. He's going to go back to being a tight end. Yeah. And Steps just mentioned that it's not only because of how exhausting it is to play both ways, but also he believes that that Anderson has what it takes to be a pro player. He says that pro scouts have been out at their practices watching Anderson because he's got a pro level caliber talent. So we'll see if he is able to go pro. And and it helps playing one way. You can kind of focus on that. It was funny. I joked with him. I said, do you think Travis Hunter's going to be able to play both ways in the NFL this year? He's like, it's going to take someone really special. Took a deep breath and said it's going to take someone really special to do that. And he did emphasize it was exhausting last year.
Oh, it has to be. What we've heard about Travis Hunter through training camps right now is that he's still trying to do it. So, we'll see, right? Yeah. Only time will tell at this point. We talked or mentioned just kind of the Missouri Valley Conference. It is tough. It is so tough. Last 4 years, they produced 2 of the national champions and everything. I know that this program is going to take a while. I always kind of think when you get a new head coach, give them 5 years. Give them 5 years, because then they get in, the guys that they want. They build something, the culture that they want and everything. So this is going to take time. But where do we see the Panthers stacking up right now?
Right now, we don't know, and I don't think
there's a lot of newness, right?
Coach Stepsis doesn't know either. Gotcha. He actually said he's coached teams over the past 11 years, and he tries to compare his team with those teams, and he says when it comes to talent, quote, to be determined in that department. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he knows how his team stacks up talent-wise. All he can attest to is kind of the culture that they're putting in, because the reality is, it's going to take some time. Right. It'd be a shocker if they came in and were incredibly successful in year one, considering also that it was players from that 3-9 team are also back. So the talent level is around the same. How much of a difference can a coaching in his system make?
Right.
It probably won't be. All of a sudden they're 9-3 instead.
Right.
That's very unlikely. But he mentioned that they're going to, they don't really know yet, and they'll figure it out. I'm not sure how good the team will be record-wise. I think this is a long-term project of being able to, like you said, over the course of 4 or 5 years, growing the culture. We look at, there are many other coaches. An example I think of is when you look at a guy like Dan Campbell that came into the Lions, and they were horrendous that first year, but then that year two, the culture was set and they were consistent no matter through the losing, and they took a huge steps forward. And I could imagine that happening with this team once you start to develop players and he gets more of the guys that he recruits.
You gonna tell him that you're a Lions fan?
Yeah. Full disclosure.
That's why he threw that one.
Lions fan. Yeah, they were 10-1 that year under Dan Campbell, and they were very bad that first year. Year two took a jump, went 9-8, and then they were 12-5, 15-2.
Yep.
So culture kind of takes a while. You have to have culture and the right guys, and I think right now he's got the right guys for his culture, but maybe on the field they don't have the talent stick up with the rest of the MVC, which is best FCS conference there is.
Yeah, and then you're up at the Dome for second time, right? Second time because you were
I was there for the Shrine Bowl.
The Shrine Bowl, right? A lot of construction, he said, a lot of dust and everything going on. But as far as the renovations and everything, from what you could see, does it look like it's? I mean, I hear about the upgrades, but I think until you see them, you're like, what's this gonna look like? What? Give us a hint. What's it gonna look like?
It's pretty cool in there right now. Right now, there's a lot of construction going on, like the club level and the club seating and stuff like that. But overall, it looks nice in there, and it seems like they're getting. Today was a very different scene from where it was in Shrine Bowl, because Shrine Bowl, they had to get it in shape for players. They got a game.
Parents,
But I went in today, and a few construction crews working, very dusty in there, and the turf wasn't rolled out. It was just the floor, so it was kind of It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't fantastic walking in today, but the designs we've seen, they definitely are on track for those designs, and it looks like once it's complete, it'll be great, and we'll see how quickly they're able to get stuff ready for Week 1 against Butler in that stadium.
I was going to say, did you ever shoot in a dome? Have we talked about that?
I did. So I went to Syracuse. So
that's right.
The Carrier Dome. So I covered a basketball game there and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
It reminds me of the Carrier Dome a little bit.
Yeah?
A little bit.
Hey, I love that dome, especially in the winter time.
Yes.
Especially when
air conditioning and heating. It's perfect.
Absolutely. Anything else? I mean, we haven't really chatted about defense. I'm assuming there's new faces too. Did you learn anything about that side of the ball?
Yeah, defense, and he was a defensive coach. He was the defense coordinator at Drake for a few years. So he's going to be focused on defensive side of the ball. And I think the defense will be kind of what is expected from. I think they'll take a step forward because they do have a defensive-minded head coach now.
Gotcha.
So I think he'll take a step forward. But the players are all pretty much the same when it comes to that. So we'll see how good they're able to translate that to the field.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to mention about the Panthers Media Day? I know we're just going to keep doing these media days because football's around the corner.
Yeah, it was something I joked about today with someone at the media day. He mentioned that all these coaches talk about cliches and stuff like that, where Sepsis was not about cliches. He was very authentic and very real. And there's something he mentioned to us is that he doesn't keep things close to the vest. He's very open because it's not about schemes to him. It's about going out and executing on the field. So he mentioned, yeah, you practice. He's just calling out for media, and he's like, I don't care what you get on camera because we should go out and execute it regardless. So he's a very authentic coach, and seems like he kind of practices what he preaches. So I think they've got the right guy to take some steps. I'm not sure how big of a step it'll be this year.
Yep.
They could surprise people. They've got players that are talented, and who knows, they could go out and improve by quite a few games. But I think this is a multi-year process in which I do think they've got the right guy for the job.
Yeah, I think Collin came back and said that Sepsis had this open door policy about practice, and I was like, well, he may have it, but how are the sports information directors that we work with to coordinate these things? How do they feel about that? So that's kind of comical, but I think it does kind of open the page or flip a page or just kind of open the book about who he is a little bit. So it's fun.
Yeah. Excited. I'm excited for the season. I think a lot of the players are. There was, for a team that obviously they went 3-9 last season, there was a lot of positivity.
That's great.
With the team.
That's wonderful. Sweet. Well, that'll do it for you and I Media Days, but we're not done yet. We've got Iowa Football Media Days on Friday, so we'll be doing another one of these, chatting about kind of what we learn about Media Days. We have had, some time to kind of chat with some of the Iowa football players and coordinators this summer, so I don't know if there will be any, sort of revelations or anything, but we'll,
They'll just have to get out on the field. We're at that point in the season. We've
Right.
talked to them so much. Let's just get out onto the field.
Yeah, it'll be here before we know it, right?
Can't wait.
So we'll chat with you guys again then.